they don't think about the ride starting just when we step in the saddle. Really, it starts from our first interaction with them. And I personally think that horses are really good at sensing what type of state we're in, whether we're feeling anxious or we're feeling frustrated or tense from a day at work. That feeling again, if you had something that just like felt really good during your ride, it'll help you reference that. And
Hi, ich bin David von der Calm Horse Academy. Im folgenden Video erwartet dich wie immer super interessantes Pferdewissen. Wenn du keine Videos mehr verpassen willst, dann würde ich mich wirklich riesig freuen, wenn du den Kanal einmal abonnierst und auch direkt auf diese kleine Glocke dann klickst. Das kostet dich wirklich nichts, aber durch dein Abo hilfst du uns und motivierst uns natürlich, noch mehr tolles Pferdewissen zu verbreiten. Und jetzt viel Spaß beim nächsten Video.
Hey, I'm Callie King. I'm a riding instructor, I'm a trainer, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Have you ever gone out to ride and just felt like you didn't know what to do, you didn't know what to practice? Maybe you ended up getting on and just kind of riding around, doing a bunch of circles, trying to remember what your instructor had told you to work on the last time. And then you got off and you felt like you or your horse hadn't really made any real progress. So I think most of us are in the position that we would rather have more time to ride, so we have to make every ride count. And this is true whether you really have big goals and you have aspirations to improve, or if you just want to make the most of the time with your horse and have a great time. So today I want to go through and share a structure that I use when I'm planning my own rides with my own horses, with horses that I have in training. And this is also a structure that I use when I'm teaching. So I teach a lot in person, some one-on-one lessons, some with groups and classes, and then I do events too. But I always use this basic structure to plan those sessions. In this structure, we're going to go through 6 main steps to this great ride. And it's going to start with being in the right state of mind when you first get to the barn or before you go out of your house to go out in the field and get your horse. So our horses don't think about the ride starting just when we step in the saddle. Really, it starts from our first interaction with them. And I personally think that horses are really good at sensing what type of state we're in, whether we're feeling anxious or we're feeling frustrated or tense from a day at work. Or if we're feeling really scattered and disorganized, or if we're in a really calm, present place and we're excited to go out and ride. I think they can feel that probably when we're first coming in the gate of their pasture before we're even up close to them. So here's something that I recommend is having just a little ritual that can help you get in the best place, kind of leave the rest of the day behind before you go out to your horse. So this might be if you drive out to the barn. When you first get there and you park your car, before you even get out of the car, you might just take a few moments there where you close your eyes, you breathe, and you imagine seeing your horse. Whether it's your own horse, whether it's a school horse that you're going to be riding, doesn't matter, but just take those few moments to take some deep breaths and imagine going out, seeing your horse, imagine the kind of ride that you want to have. You might also have another little ritual in there where that's where you kind of check in with your plan for the ride. These are the things that I want to practice. These are the exercises that I'm going to do. But just having that transition time can be really important to help take you out from whatever else was going on in your day and move into where you can be calm and present and really in a good state to connect with your horse and to have a great time riding and to be focused too so that you can make the most progress. So that's this first step. I think of the first one as just being riding state of mind and having that little transition. The second thing to do is to have a warm-up. This can actually kind of be part of this transition for you, but in the warm-up we're also thinking about getting our body ready for riding. So when we ride, it does take a lot more athletic performance. Even if you're just trail riding, even if you're just going to be out and walking around, we have to prepare ourselves physically. It doesn't mean that you're getting ready for an intense workout, but it means that you're just being present with your body, that you're aware of what's going on. You're aware if you're a little stiff somewhere or you're feeling like a little crooked, because that's all going to affect your horse. So this can be as simple as doing some stretches in the barn. And this is also going to extend out into when you first get on, allowing your horse to warm up. So with the warm up, number 2, this is preparing yourself. So this is what I like to do unmounted. And again, this might be stretches, this might be some body awareness exercises. I usually do this either like in the barn right before I go out to bring my horse in from the field, or even better, I'll usually do it when I first come out to the arena or in the barn if my horse is like in a stall or on cross ties, tacked up, ready to go. So I'm kind of doing my warm-up right before I head out. And then once I get on, I'm also doing a bit more warm-up. I might continue to do some things for myself. There's exercises that I use that transition really well from unmounted to mounted. So for example, there's one that's one of my favorites. It's called body circles. It's pretty simple. It's just a sequence of going through, doing different movements, really warming up your joints, especially the major joints that we use for riding, shoulders, hips, ankles. Gets you warmed up, and it's something that you can do unmounted, and then you can do a shortened version of it when you're mounted as well. Of course, we also want to be thinking about warming up our horse. And how much we warm up depends on what you're going to be doing. So if you know that you're going to be doing a pretty intense session where you're going to be asking a lot from your horse, where you're going to be jumping through grids or courses, where you're going to be practicing a lot of lateral work, asking for higher levels of collection, you've got to spend more time on the warm-up. You want to make sure that you spend time just getting their blood flowing, getting their muscles moving. But then you also need to think about really suppling your horse as well. If you're going to be going out for a trail ride, that doesn't take as much warm-up. That might just be that you mount and you walk for 5 or 10 minutes before you pick up the trot and start moving more forward. So think about what you're going to be doing in the session, and that will dictate how much time you need to spend in your warm-up. So under warm-up, we've got preparing yourself, and then we also have preparing your horse. Okay, so then after you've warmed up, I like to think of keeping a balance in my sessions that I'm always working on myself as a rider, but that I'm working on the horse as well. So here's how I do this. I will pick an exercise that I'm going to do that's going to be working on something that is skill building for myself, or if I'm teaching for the student that I'm working with. And then we have an exercise that's going to be for the horse. This is often a pattern, or it's a particular movement. So for example, it might be that we're going to work on serpentines, or we're going to work on center line and having better straightness down the center line. Or for a rider, it might be that we're going to work on something that's been a specific challenge. So for example, if I know that I am a little bit tight in my hips, and I'm feeling a little bit sore there, maybe from a run or something a few days ago, then I'm going to think about doing some exercises that are going to really help me be aware of my hips to make sure that I'm sitting nice and straight and square in the saddle. Or if I'm working with a rider that maybe has a tendency to kind of collapse their upper body and roll their shoulders forward, then we might do a rider skill building exercise that's really thinking about opening this up. And I've got a number of different exercises that I use, but this is kind of that, again, the format and the structure that I put those exercises into. So number 3 is going to be rider skill building. So again, this is something that's working on improving something specifically for the rider. And I like to do this first on its own. So we've warmed up, we've moved, now we're going into the skill building. And of course, the exercises that you do can be completely variable. There's some that are appropriate for beginners, some for advanced. Most exercises, I find though, if you think of ones that you've been taught, they can be made really easy, or they can be made much more difficult. Let's just think about trotting your horse over cavaletti poles and wanting to improve your posture over the poles. We can go over the poles and we can start to change hand positions. We can do it at the walk for an easy version. We can do it at trot for a more difficult version. We can start to take both hands off the reins, tying the reins in a knot and take both hands off for even more difficult. or we could even step those into canter poles, and then essentially that same exercise has even been stepped up to one more difficulty level.
Dieses Video ist in 2 Teile aufgeteilt. Den zweiten Teil findest du entweder kostenlos während dem Kongress oder du kannst dir alle Videos sichern, wirklich zum Downloaden, zum immer wieder anschauen. Hier unten in der Videobeschreibung, da findest du alle Details dazu. Ansonsten eine kurze Erinnerung, auch von der Fee. Fee, was sagst du? Genau, bitte YouTube-Kanal einmal abonnieren. Das kostet dich nichts, das hilft uns aber wirklich, noch mehr Wissen zu verbreiten. Und ich freue mich, wenn du hier gleich auf Abonnieren und dann auch auf die Glocke klickst. Bis dann!